And by the way, you're a political scientist and economist, and I've read your work for more than 15 years, so I vouch for what you're saying. But perhaps you should give people a few dates, because you went and got source documents from the Office of Naval Intelligence, from retired admirals, from retired commander of the Office of Naval Intelligence, from government documents, and explain when it got its name, Committee of 300, and how it nexuses in with the Bilderberg Group, with the Round Table, Royal Institute of International Affairs in England, with the CFR in the United States, how these other globalist groups tie in to the Committee of 300.
Well, these organizations that you mentioned, like the Bilderbergers and the Council on Foreign Relations, these are mere cogs in the big machinery. They're not the preeminent bodies that we have to deal with. They are cogs in this giant organization called the Committee of 300. And they took this name from a family of 300 very powerful merchants living in England. And it began with a charter from the Queen to give them the right to go and invade countries and make war against them. And it, of course, was based on the Chinese opium trade. They had a huge treasury of money gained from the Chinese opium trade. They even got a charter from the British government to go to war against China. That gives you some idea of the power of these people. It's like a private organization that really is the government of the world.
And, of course, even MSNBC admits that in 1832, this same committee of opium merchants, British, Dutch East India, that had merged hundreds of years before, set up just skull and bones to take over the elite of the United States. So this is really the oldest continually operating private intelligence operation.
Absolutely, and they co-opted the best available brains in the world at that time, and all the old liberal Eastern liberal establishment families, like John Handyside Perkins and so on, they were all co-opted into this committee. And today the CFR takes its orders from the Royal Institute of International Affairs in Chatham House in London. That's a daily affair. The orders are relayed through one of the brokerage houses. I don't want to name them in case they pass suit against me. But they are the ones who convey the message to the Secretary of State, and then it becomes government policy. In foreign policy, monetary policies, in fact, very little that is enacted is not originally from the Royal Institute of International Affairs, which is the international arm of the Committee of 300.
It's amazing. And, of course, they use the drug war as a way to break up China, and they're doing the same thing today here. They make the drugs illegal and then take over all the criminal networks and mass all the secret wealth through the drug war.
Exactly. That's, as I said, that's how they acquire their massive treasury, their amazing amount of wealth. The wealth that those people have made David Rockefeller look like a piker. Give you some idea of how wealthy they are.
And he's just one of their agents here in the U.S., correct?
That's correct. Oh, yes. And, of course, I also believe that there are a few others in the U.S. agents as well.
Herr Kissinger and Brzezinski are above them.
Oh, Brzezinski played a big role. He was one of their foreign arms specialists, and he wrote many of the policies for the U.S. that were carried out. And especially weak, I think, in this regard was the Carter administration. They were like just servants to this committee and did exactly, James L. Carter did exactly what he was told. He never deviated from that.
Well, we've only got 40 minutes left, and it's clear I'm going to have to get you back up for 2 hours in the near future. Coleman300.com. A short segment coming up and a long segment. I'm going to try to shut up when we get back, and it's so intriguing, and go over your research of the Committee of 300, what their goals are, how they tie into these other groups that serve them, and where this is going in the future. With our guest, Dr. John Coleman, I'm Alex Jones, and, of course, we cover this group's eugenics aims in Endgame. Now, let's remember that 30 years ago, the mainstream media said the Bilderberg Group didn't exist. But Dr. John Coleman from Deep Research has found the documents about the Committee of 300. And he believes it's the overall control grid. Now the group he describes certainly exists, and we know that's the power nexus. through these letter of marques that were given by the British Crown to these families that then merged with the Dutch and others, and of course took control of this nation. You've got the floor, sir. So what is the Bilderberg Group? Just one of the key meeting groups of...
The Bilderbergers was founded at a place called the Bilderberg is in Holland, and that was under the control of the old Dutch prince, and it was there that they had their first meeting in the town of Bilderberg. And of course,
yeah, Oosterbeek, Holland. But I mean, my question is, how does it tie in? Because then when you research Bilderberg, you find out it was a group that had been meeting for hundreds of years and just ties into the Dutch and German arm of this same committee.
Yes, well, what these people do, they take names that date back hundreds of years, and then they co-opt those names for their societies today. And, what you're looking at is a loosely knit group of people, as I said in my book, with commonly held goals. It's not the case that there's some just group meeting socially. In fact, the Committee of 300 has a 150-year-old history, and they have some of the most brilliant and intellectual assembled to form a complete totalitarian, absolutely controlled new society, like the New World Order inside a one-world government.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So when did you first discover the term Committee of 300 in the power structure, and what is their goal?
Their goals are, they want to have an open... H.G. Wells, who was an earlier member of their elite coterie, he wrote a work called The Open Conspiracy's Plan for a World Revolution, and it was a bold statement of intent, which nobody believed, of course. Wells accepted this, and he brought the conspiracy. It says that, I'll quote you some of it, can't do it all. The open conspiracy will appear first, I believe, as a conscious organization of intelligent, in some cases wealthy men, as a movement having distinct social and political aims, confessedly ignoring most of the existing apparatus of political control, or using it only as an incidental implement in the stages, a mere movement of a number of people in a certain direction, prepared to discover with a sort of surprise the common object to which they are all moving. In all sorts of ways, they have been influencing and controlling the governments of the world. And, George Orwell mentioned something about this in his book 1984. So that's really what they plan to do.
And I remember reading that H.G. Wells quote because he wanted this global world government and talked about how they would exterminate most of the people. And, of course, he was one of their top thinkers. But that particular quote you just gave, where does that come from again? That
comes from his paper. I'll read it to you. The Open Conspiracy, Plans for a World Revolution. That's what it's called.
Yeah, Plans for a World Revolution. We've got to do another paper on that.
I found this document in the British Museum in London, which is one of the greatest repositories of information in the world. I was privileged, of course, having special access to certain areas that are closed to the public. But that's where I found most of this work that I've written about.
Well, he was quite open about a lot of it in books like The New World Order.
Oh, yes, he was. But, I mean, what I'm talking about is the formation of it in the beginning was kept very secret.
And, of course, Cecil Rhodes tied into this, didn't he?
Oh, yes, he was financed by the Lord Alfred Milner. Lord Alfred Milner was an autocrat who'd made huge fortunes in Russia. And he sent Rhodes out, actually, to South Africa to gain control of the enormous wealth of diamonds and gold, which had just been discovered there. And Rhodes, with unlimited money behind him, went around buying up all the claims of the prospectors. There's really no mining of any kind going on. And from that small beginning, and they still have this all centered in the City of London, which is a private preserve, financial preserve of the Committee of 300. The City of London is totally different from London itself. It's a financial center, and Rhodes was, of course, sent out with unlimited money, and he bought up most of the claims of the small miners, and when the opportunities came to start mining on a big scale, they were there and waiting and had all of the appropriate wealth to back it up. And today, Of course, the mines in South Africa are the biggest in the world. They have a gold seam that stretches for 200 miles east to west. And it's not just some small couple of nuggets. I've been down those mines. You go down 6,000 feet in a cage that drops like a stone. And if you don't have a strong stomach, don't try it. And you get down to these places where they're working, the places, and they are enormous, 20-foot high.
Stay there, doctor. We're going to come right back to you.